Hello and welcome. My name is Mark Hunter, the Sales Hunter, and this is another webinar session. We're going to get started here in just a second. Hey, go ahead and type in the notes section where you're from. Love to hear. We have over 1,059 people registered for this event from all over the world. Now, the vast majority are from US and Canada, but we've got people from Australia, people from Europe, people from Africa. They're all over the place. We love it. Hey, we're going to get started here in just a moment, but here's the question I want to ask you. How many bad emails have you received? I'm sure you've received quite a few. Now stop and ask yourself this question. What makes the emails you send out differently? I'm just posing that for just a moment, and we're going to start in 10 seconds. Hey, welcome. My name's Mark Hunter, the Sales Hunter, and you've really attended another session, another webinar session. And this one has been lighting up the system. Now, when I say lighting up the system, we've got over 1,000 people that have registered for this event. In fact, it was really prompted by an article. I think the registrations were prompted by a posting I put on LinkedIn about a week ago, where I was just calling out bad emails, bad prospecting emails. And we've had over 60,000 views of that little, just a quick rant. So that's really what prompted me to kind of put this webinar together. So, hey, what we're going to be doing here is I'm going to go for about 45 minutes. I'm going to share with you a number of tips and ideas, and I got a couple special deals for you at the end, okay? Now, this is going to be a little bit different, but I also want to make sure, because we have 1,000 people on this call today, that I get time for Q&A, but I'm going to kind of package up Q&A as I roll through the session. Does that sound okay? And then I'll make sure that I save more time at the end for Q&A. So go ahead and start throwing in. Hey, we got people coming in from London, Omaha, California, Australia. Like I said, they're coming in from all over the world, but it's all about prospecting. Let's jump into it. Hey, I want to thank the folks at infofree.com. They're the ones who really make these events possible. And I'll tell you what, from a prospecting database, they really do it right. And again, I'm going to share with you kind of an idea that you can use with them as we get down towards the end. Okay, so stay tuned for that, because I got a couple really cool things. Oh, hey, the book, High Profit Prospecting. I don't have a copy in front of me, but you know the book. And you know what? I'm going to give you a special chance to get that book here at the end too. Okay, so anyway, hey, all the ideas I share with you come from just a world-class array of companies that I get to work with all over the world. I've had the privilege of doing this for about 18 years now. And over that time, I've amassed a tremendous amount of knowledge, and that's what I'm going to share with you today, that knowledge and that expertise. But hey, let's really get down to the brass tacks, because that's what we're here for. Prospecting with email. How do you do it right to get the results you want? Because like I said, if you're on kind of that little 1-minute pre-show, there are a lot of people who send out bad emails, and you probably get them. But I'm going to sit there and say, am I maybe guilty of doing the same thing? And I'm going to share with you what I call the deadly sins. I'm going to share with you the things to avoid, and then the things to do, because that's really what I want to focus on, how to help you get it right. Hey, somebody just signed on from sunny Oregon. I used to live in Oregon. Yeah, and it was never sunny when I lived there. But anyway, here's the whole deal. It's about the laptop and the telephone. Now, when I mean the laptop, I mean that's your desktop. Now, here's the single biggest issue that people have when it comes to prospecting emails. They write the prospecting email on their laptop, on their desktop, and oh, it looks good. But the problem is the person's receiving it and looking at it on their smartphone. And that email looks like a dumb mail on a smartphone. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to take the prospecting emails that you send, and I want you to send it to yourself and then look at it on your smartphone. You see, because think about this for a moment. Your prospects are probably viewing it on a smartphone. Now you say, Mark, no, they're at a desk. Well, that's fine. That's maybe what you think, but it isn't always what happens. And here's what I found. Emails get deleted much faster by way of the smartphone and an iPad than they do a desktop or a laptop. Simply being because when you're on a desktop or a laptop, you tend to have kind of the full screen there, and you see a lot more of the email. You see, when it's on a smartphone, you're really limited to only really just a little bit of that subject line and maybe the first 8 or 10 words. That changes the whole dynamics, and I'll get into that in just a moment. But here's the other big issue. It's not about you. I hate to say it. It's not about you. Somebody just said, will a replay of the webinar be available? Yes, it is. But hey, don't hang up on me. Stick around. This is going to be good. We got people from India. I love it. I love it. All over the world. Thank you. Hey, here's the whole deal. It's not about you. The second biggest mistake, besides not having emails be really smartphone compliant, smartphone suitable, smartphone viewable, is the fact that they make the email about themselves. You see, think about this. Do people wake up in the morning and say, oh, by golly, I want to know more about Mark Hunter? No, they don't. No, they don't. We all have our own problems. We all have our own challenges. So this is why what I'm going to sit here and say, you never start off the email by saying, hi, my name is blah, 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 blah. And no, don't. Because what is that? That is a license to delete. Because when somebody sends me an email like that, and I view it on my smartphone, I know it's a salesperson. So what do? I delete it. I delete it right away. Hey, let's get to the third piece. Third piece is you're not sending a book. I get a lot of these prospecting emails, and they are paragraph after paragraph. They go, I got one this morning. I'm not going to throw people under the bus and put it on the screen for you to see, but believe me, it is pathetic how long it is. It's not about the length of the email, because here's the whole thing. Your email is really designed to engage. It is not designed to create a final buying decision. That's a critical distinction here, okay? Now, let's back up and let me explain what I meant by that. My whole purpose of a prospecting email to you is to get it to where you respond to me, you engage with me, you allow me to communicate with you more. It's not to create necessarily the final buying decision. That's an advertisement. That's a completely different piece, okay? Now, here's the whole thing that I really want you to focus in on. It's about brevity. Now, there's a famous quote, and I had to go out and really kind of research who said initially, but this is who said initially, if I had more time, I would have written a shorter letter. Now, that was written hundreds of years ago, and it's been attributed to a lot of people, but I found the source. And here's the question I want to ask you. Just because you can put it into an email, don't put it into an email. And this is a real critical issue. My whole objective with me sending you a prospecting email is to engage in a discussion. Because think about this. My goal is not to get you to make the decision based off of one email. My goal is to get you to engage with me so I can dialogue with you. Now, hopefully I can dialogue with you on the telephone. Sometimes it's strictly over email. I get that. But it's to create dialogue. It's to create that next step. Now, here's the critical piece. Then I'm going to start jumping into some more pieces here. It has to be viewable on a smartphone. Now, what do I mean by a smartphone? What do I mean by this? Well, this is where it really comes down. This is where I really want to spend some time. It's all about the subject line and the first 10 words. If I were to ask all of you to take your smartphones right now and open up, and I'll go ahead and do that. I'm going to pull up email here, and you're not going to be able to see it on the screen. But basically what I see is I see about half a dozen messages. Okay, I see about half a dozen messages. And I see right there a very short description, the subject line, only really part of it, and about the first, 175 characters. You see, really what you have to think of is I got to think of my email in a Twitter mentality. Now, my mom was an English teacher, and she would cringe if she heard me say this. I don't want you to write the way your English teacher taught you to write. You know that formality of introducing yourself? No, don't. You don't introduce yourself in the first sentence. Because when you introduce yourself in the first sentence, you've automatically told the person, this is a prospecting email. Delete it. Because they don't want to be interrupted, you see. So what I got to do is I got to sit here and I got to say, what's a subject line that's going to engage and interest you? And what are the first 10 words? Now, I just say 10 words. Every smartphone is different. I happen to use an iPhone, and I use an iOS system. You may have a Samsung. You may have Android. You may have whatever combination, and it's probably going to appear differently. You see, 10 words is really the max. Maybe it's only like 4 or 5 words. But here's what I want you to do. I want you to stop and think about that. When you see that message, would you be inclined to open it or would you be inclined to delete it? Now, look, it's coming from a person who I don't know. Well, right there, that's strike one. Strike two is wow, the subject line just doesn't grab me. That's strike two. And first 10 words, don't we? That's strike three. Hey, we're into baseball season. You're out of there. That's an out. You see, stop and ask yourself, does this grab you? Now, let's talk about what do we mean by grab you? What I like to do is I like to lead off with industry information. Now, whoa, wait a minute. Hold it, Mark. I don't know who these people are. I don't know anything about them. I don't know. Okay, and that's another issue, and I'll address that later on. Minimally, what I say is I want to know at least what industry you're in, because I'm going to prospect to you. And oh, by the way, that brings up the deadly sin, but I'm going to hold that back. I'm going to hold back on that. Okay. You see, I want to reveal some information. So I might be sending somebody in the construction industry, but so there may be some new OSHA regulations that come out. There may be some new changes in zoning laws or something like that. So the headline might be changes in zoning laws or zoning regs or new performance or something like that. And I'll say, hey, just receive the new updates on this. That's my first 10 words. You see, what am I doing here? I'm not selling. Well, at least according to what the email shows, it's not selling. I'm sending you information. Because here's what I want to do. I want to get that response to come back. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit here and craft that piece. And this is why I like focusing in on the industry. Mark, I'm in B2C. How does that work for B2C? Yeah, but you know what? It's still industry, so to speak, because you may be a financial planner. So you're going to send an email that is more oriented towards retirement. Hey, changes in federal tax laws. Right now, this time of year, if you're watching this live, it's just like a week before taxes are due here in the US. Yeah. And so you might focus in on it. So you focus in on stuff. This is what you're doing here is you're now making it not about me, but you're making it about you. Now, here's the other piece that you really got to sit here and say. What should the length of the email be if it can't be a book? Well, it's 4 to 6 sentences, 2 to 3 paragraphs, and double space each paragraph. Now, let me walk you through what I mean by this. The first sentence might be changes in environmental regulations have just come out. I'd like to share them with you. That could be my first paragraph. Then you introduce myself. I'm Mark Hunter, the sales hunter. Boom, boom, boom. I work with companies. Boom, boom. Third paragraph. Email me back or call me, and I'll be happy to share the information with you. That's it. You see, what did I do? That was a very short, tight email. Now, what does that email do? It allows it to be very viewable on a smartphone. Now, think about what else this does. Did I sit here and jump all over you trying to get you to buy XYZ? No. Because the first thing I have to do, even in an email, is to sell me. And this is what so many people forget. They forget this whole idea that I got to sell me. And oh, by the way, they got to create a level of trust and competence. Oh, that's what the first 2 sentences, that's what the subject line is all about. It's helping again in a very express method. Now you sit there and say, Mark, I don't know if that's going to work. Well, let me ask you this question. How's your current 14-page email working? It's not. You see, here's what I'm doing also. And again, we've run this with so many companies. I'm going to share with you some very specific examples here as we get further along. I guess I could put my smartphone down. Here's the whole thing. What I'm doing is I'm engaging you, and you're seeing that I'm doing 2 things. A, I'm respecting your time because it's a short email. B, I'm concise, so it means that, hey, this guy can construct and is grammatically, and this guy can speak, this guy can talk. Yeah, this guy can write. This guy must be a professional. And 3, I'm making it about you, not about me. What is that doing? That's helping to create that level of trust, that level of confidence. That's one of the key critical pieces that I'm doing in this initial prospecting email. Now, I'll get to in a bit in terms of the frequency, okay? I'll get to that in a bit. What I'm saying is this is that initial email that I'm sending to you. Because now what am I doing? I'm just providing it to you. Now, let's get into what are some of the real things you don't do. Now, this is not the deadly sin. I'm going to save the deadly sin for later. First of all, don't go including attachments and links. Oh, but Mark, I want to show them great pictures of what. No, here's why. There's about 15,000 reasons, but I'll just give you the top three. One, it's amazing how they don't come through well on smart devices. The smart device may not be quite as smart. And I'll use the example of, I'll use Panera, okay? Many of you have probably been to Panera, okay? And I happen to have a Panera card, okay? Starbucks is my favorite, but I have a Panera card, okay? And I have the Starbucks app too. And anyway, I get emails from Panera all the time, and it's amazing how they come in screwed up. Now, wait a minute. If a company like Panera can't get emails right, what should make you think I can get emails right? You see, because they're attaching images, they're attaching links. So don't do that for that very simple reason. Second reason is this. Anytime you attach pictures and links to somebody you haven't had any kind of communication with, their spam filter may very quickly pop it up and say, hey, screw it, you're going to junk. So guess what? Your email isn't even being seen by them. That's rule number two. Reason number three is because there's a lot of people. And I've had this word for word, especially from senior level people, who will never open up a link or an attachment because the last thing they want to do is get malware on their device. I send out a weekly email. Many of you probably receive it, okay? And there's a couple pictures and there's always a link in there. And I've had several CEOs tell me, hey, Mark, you know what? I would love getting your content, but I can't open it. And I go, come on, we know each other. I know, but I just have this policy that I will never open up a link because, Mark, think about this. I'm the CEO of my corporation. And a couple of these are very large corporations, and they sit there and they say, the last thing I want to do is have to have my assistant contact IT and say, hey, guess what? The big guy has got a problem with his computer because of malware. You see, can't do that. So I never in prospecting, and this includes your salutation, okay? You know, at the bottom, when a lot of people, and I have it on mine, I have my name and I have my phone number and I have an image of my book. But when I'm sending out a prospecting email, I have a second signature line that does not have any of that. So I can send out a pure text prospecting email. Now, another big X that you have to absolutely avoid is when you send out your emails. Now, wait a minute. Yeah, when you send it out. Now, here's some things that I'm going to share with you in terms of when you can send out an email to get the best response. Now, keep in mind, your industry, your geography, everything else, there's going to be a lot of variations, but I'm going to share with you some very broad parameters that I have found absolutely work great from a prospecting email. First of all, throw out the idea that you can't send a prospecting email out on a Monday morning or a Friday afternoon. That is garbage. That is garbage. I have found for many, many industries, Monday morning and Friday afternoon are the absolute best times to send out prospecting email. Now, by and large, the best times are Tuesday and Wednesday morning, okay? But again, you got to test it. But let's get into some variables. Let's get into some really cool things that I really like doing. I love sending out emails late Sunday afternoon, early Sunday evening. Because it's amazing. Most people will sit there and say, I got to kind of get into work and let me check my email. And, oh, there's the email. Oh, go ahead and take a look at it. And they're a little more decompressed in terms of stress and a little longer in terms of time. So people who normally would just blow past an email, or maybe because they would look at it on their smartphone, they're looking at it on their laptop while they're watching a movie, while they're watching a game or something like that. Senior level people, when I mean senior level people, if I'm reaching the C-suite or anything below that, I won't hesitate to send an email out on a late Friday afternoon. Now, this is what's interesting. Late Friday afternoon, you know what? They're still working. and probably the assistant is going to receive that email. But you know what that assistant's going to do? He or she's going to sit there and say, wow, this guy is working. This guy is great. That's why, if I could really talk about telephone, that's almost the perfect time to call. But hey, we're going to stick here with email. But the magic time, 6:15 on Saturday morning. 6:15 on Saturday morning. Now, let me just run into a couple deep things that you can do. This shouldn't be an X because this is something I want you to do. I can send an email out to senior level people on Saturday mornings at 6:15. But I got to make it one-to-one. So one email to one person. Never do a group email because, again, CEOs will sniff that out and throw you out. But if you do one-to-one, and because here's what I found, senior level people are many times sitting there working on Saturday morning. They're not working in the business now, they're working on the business. Same thing with entrepreneurs, same way with entrepreneurs. I do the same thing with entrepreneurs and small business owners. Many times the small business owner is just frantically racing Monday through Friday. But Saturday morning is when they have a chance to kind of work on their business. And I get into some great dialogue, great exchange. So that's a great time to be prospecting. What's another big X? Another big X is very simply thinking that you can copy and copy and copy and copy and resend. Don't. You never, ever send the same email twice. Now, what do I mean by this? Okay. And we'll talk more about this when I get to the frequency here in a bit, okay? What I do is I never send you the same prospecting email. Now, one of the biggest things, and this is a do not, did you see my earlier email? I hate that. What have you done? You send me that email, and what have you done? You've told me that I'm stupid. I don't want to be told I'm stupid. I already know that. My kids tell me that all the time. But see, I don't want to know I'm stupid. And guess what? Because you told me I'm stupid, I'm not going to do business with you. This is one of the whole reasons why one of the big X's that I climb over is when people send out one email and then they send it again. Just in case you didn't see this, here it is again. I saw it and it was stupid. So I'm choosing not to respond. I go into every email assuming you have seen the email. Okay? This is I've got to assume the best of every prospect I send out. Now, let's carry this a little step further because the other big X, and I hate this, is that you send out an email and then you immediately phone them 15 minutes later saying, did you get my email? Well, let me tell you something. Your prospects are not sitting around eating gummy bears, bored stiff, waiting for you to contact them. No. Somebody does that to me, I'm never going to talk to you because I'll get to my email. I'll get to it. It might be in 15 minutes. It might be a day. It might be a couple days. But I'm not going to sit there and try. So when you sit there and hit me with an email and then hit me with a phone call right after that, you are doing me a disservice. Or you hit me with an email and then 3-4 hours later, you come back and hit me with another one. I will. The only exception I will ever have that is if you have such a timely situation that you know this customer has to make a decision within the next 4 or 5 hours. That's the only time I would do that. But that's probably not you. Because what you've done is you've absolutely violated all levels of trust with that person. Now, let's jump in and let's talk about frequency, because this is a real critical issue. First of all, you heard my comment that never repeat the same email. Now, what I will do, this is a recommendation that I make to everybody I work with, everybody, whether it be consulting, coaching, training, whatever. Here's what I want to do is I want to sit there and I want to keep the same message basically for this week. This is this week's message for this industry. So I might be dealing with 5 industries. So I might have 5 different messages. And that's my message for this week. Next week, I have a different email. Next week, I have a different email. Now, here's why. Because I got to be prepared that when that customer calls back, when I do it, they may ask you about that. And you better, oh, hey, remember that email you sent me 2 weeks ago? Well, you're going to look pretty stupid. But what this does is this allows me to package things up. Now, you might say, hey, can I have some sort of a tracking software? Yes, I love tracking software. Tracking software is great. Here's what I will say, though. We can get hung up in the reports and so forth that tracking software comes out. And again, also, don't think that any tracking software is perfect, because I've run enough internal tests with people. And it's amazing how smartphone devices and iPads and different things will cause tracking software to sometimes go a little bit awry. Now, I'm a fan of it. I like tracking software, but I got to use it knowing that I'm still going to have to put some human thought into what it really is all about. Now, back to this whole frequency thing. Okay, I'm going to send you a prospecting email today. Okay, that's great. And I do not look to do a follow-up for several days. Here's why. This person might be tied up. This person might be busy. Okay, that's just the way it is. Okay, now, here's what I do love. You may not have a phone number for somebody, but you just have an email. But you prospect, and then they bounce back that email that says, hey, I'm out of the office, but contact this person. Great, I'm going to contact them. I complete more missing pieces in my CRM system and update pieces in my CRM system because of what the prospects tell me, because of their bounce back, their out of office messages. I love it. I love it. And I will use that. I will use that telephone. I'll use that. Because again, I want to get in touch with you. That's what email prospecting is all about. Now, you see, what did I just say there? I used the word telephone, and this is the whole key thing. The best frequency plan also encompasses the telephone. Now, let's kind of come back and let's kind of piece this together. What is a prospecting plan? What is a frequency plan going to look like for email? Okay, here's the whole thing. You have to first ask yourself, is what I'm selling a consumable that people are already buying on a regular basis? If they are, I can increase the frequency with which I contact you, okay? For instance, I used to do a lot of work with freight companies, transportation companies, okay? And they could call shippers almost every day. They could email shippers almost every day. Why? Because they always got stuff to ship. Conversely, you might be selling something that you know people need, but whether or not they buy it, whether or not they're not, it's not, see? So that frequency is going to be a little bit more drawn out. There's also another piece that what you might be selling is a capital expenditure item. See, capital expenditure item. Well, that one's going to be more spread out because the decision-making process is probably going to be longer. Now, again, I'm going to contract that if it's calendar driven. In other words, if you got a bid or a quote that you're working on, I'm going to contract that short end. See, so I can't sit here and develop and say this is the magic plan. But my overall rule of thumb is what I will say is I'm going to email you today, and I'm probably going to email you 2 or 3 days from now. Or I'm going to call you maybe later the next day, probably 2 days later. I do not like the idea of sending an email and calling 15 minutes later. Again, like I said earlier, to me, that's rude. That is too frequent. Unless it's a contract. And I was speaking with a gentleman yesterday. He had sent an email and he knew that this contract had to be signed by 5 p.m. So he followed it up with a phone call. That certainly makes sense. But those are the exceptions to the rules. Now, let's come back to this whole thing. So, okay, so I'm going to send you an email. I'm going to send you, today is Thursday. I'm going to send you an email today, Thursday. I may try to call you tomorrow afternoon. I don't have a phone number. Okay, that's fine. So what I'll do is then maybe I'll send you another email Monday or Tuesday morning. Okay? Then I'll send you another email maybe on that Friday or so, maybe the following Monday. Okay. Now, here's the whole key thing. Be very cautious about the number of emails, just pure emails that you send people. Because if they don't respond to you, what's going to happen? Their spam filter is going to pick you up and throw you right into their spam folder. And you may never, ever be seen again. See? So that's why I don't like to go more than 3 or 4 emails to a person without having them respond to me. Because if I send you 3 or 4 emails and you never respond, your spam filter may automatically just throw me right into junk. But if I send you a couple of emails and you respond to me, now that spam filter says, oh, there's a dialogue between these two people. You see how that begins to work? See? So I got to be very cautious. So typically what I'll do on prospecting, if I'm doing a pure prospecting play, and I don't like pure email prospecting plays because I like to mix it up with the telephone and everything else. But if I'm doing that, I'm going to do you probably 3 or 4 emails over the course of a few weeks, then I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop for probably 60 to 90 days. Then I'm going to come back and I'm going to repeat. Do 3 or 4 more. Then I'm going to stop for 60 to 90. Then I'm going to come back and I'm going to do it again. The reason being is because I want to do it enough to where the spam filter doesn't go ballistic and lock me out. Now, the real frequency that I love is when I can sit there and match it up with the email and the phone call. Okay, so let's talk about this. Let's talk about how do we tie in the phone call with the email. I do not like this phone call. Hi, did you see the email I sent you yesterday? I do not like that because, again, what are you doing? You're saying, hey, idiot, did you read what I sent you? And I'm going to sit there and say, yeah, I read it and it was stupid. Okay. So now guess what? I'm telling you you're stupid. I don't like doing that. So I may I may call you and we'll say it goes into voicemail. And I got some videos out there and content in the book on what makes a good voicemail message. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit there and leave you something else. Now, it may be similar. Hey, we just got some additional updates to this or got some additional information. But I never repeat the same thing. I always bring value. I have to ask myself this question. Am I bringing value to this person? And if I'm not, it's not warranted for me to be able to say that. Now, here's the whole thing. You ready? What's the fatal sin? Unsubscribe. Here's the big mistake that so many people make. And this is the thing that I really, really hate from companies that sell email prospecting services. They're sending it out from a service, and at the bottom it says unsubscribe. Well, guess what? That is the absolute fatal sin. If you are sending out prospecting emails in that regard, I'm sorry, you have committed the fatal sin. And here's why. I know a lot of people, and in fact, I have it too. I have it set up in my Microsoft Outlook that anything with the word unsubscribe goes over to another folder. Now, the reason I have that is because I do subscribe to a lot of emails. I mean, a lot of newsletters. A lot of newsletters I like to read, but I don't always have time to get to them every day. So basically, anything that says unsubscribe, it just goes over there. That way, then, when I'm on the flight, when I'm on a flight, or I've got some extra time, that's when I can dig into that. So guess what? If your prospecting email says unsubscribe, guess what? Boom, it goes over. I know a lot of other people who sit there and say, hey, block any email that says unsubscribe. This is why I do not believe prospecting email is something that I can say, oh, let me send out more emails. Let me send out more emails. Let me be really frequent. I'm going to send out 10,000 emails. Well, guess what? Sending a bad email to one person is a mistake. Sending a bad email to 10,000 people is a real stupid mistake. And that's what many people do. Now, let's come back to this whole issue in terms of, because this is another fatal sin, and I'll get to a different slide here, in terms of what happens if I just don't know anything about them. Okay. I don't know. I don't know anything about them. Now, I really got a question. Why are you prospecting them? But that's a different issue. But here's the strategy that I would use. I would start off by saying something about how other companies have benefited. Other people have benefited. And I would stay on that line. It's not what I've done. It's how other people have benefited. In other words, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to focus in on the benefit and the outcome. And that's what I would put in the same sentence. And the subject line might be companies reducing labor. First sentence might be new strategies are in place to help companies reduce labor. Now, again, I'm making this up top of my head. And if I had some minutes, I'd change this around even more. But what am I doing is I'm thinking, oh, wow, that's kind of interesting. That's kind of interesting. Then I introduce myself in the second paragraph. I never am going to lead. And I got an email just this yesterday, how this company was saying, we just received the gold medal for this industry. Who cares? Do people care? No, they don't care. You see, this is one of the big challenges that people have. Now, let's get to this other piece in terms of how do we take email and, here it is. Email is one prospecting tool It's not the only one. If you are trying to build your business around email only, I hope you're not successful. I'm going to be very blunt. I hope you're not successful. And you know what? I don't think you will be successful. This is what these list building and lead generation companies attempt to do. They just attempt to just flood the world with enough emails, and they'll get enough people to respond and say yes. To me, that is totally wrong. I'm going to take email and I'm going to match it up, and I'm going to share with you here in just a bit a couple things that I want you to really jump on that's going to help you get to that. Okay. Now, what I'm talking about is I'm going to sit here and I'm going to say, here's the email, and then here's the phone call. I may even do text depending on the industry, depending on who I'm reaching. Yeah, text messaging is becoming more and more viable. Now, one of the pieces that comes up, people say, well, gee, should I be using something like BombBomb? You know, BombBomb's a software that allows you to put a video right into an email. And so, oh, it's a cool prospecting email. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is a cool prospecting email. But I'm not there yet on saying that's the approach I'm going to use on that initial email. Now, let's come back to this whole piece. Remember, it's coming from your laptop and it's going to your smartphone. So the pattern I might do is this. I'm going to sit here and I'm going to hit you with 2 or 3 emails. I'm going to hit you with a couple of phone calls. Not working. Step back. Come back again. If I get a little bit of a response from you, then I may send you an email with a link. Whoa, what did I just say? Yes. Once you've responded to me, the gate is now open for me to send you something with a link or a PDF. Now, here's what I do not like. You don't want to provide back to that person in the email enough information for them to make a decision. This is why what I do is I will say I'm going to send them back a single page PDF. Now, here's why. That PDF might be same content that's on your website. But if I send them to the website, they may see something else, or they may get distracted and they may not choose to engage with me. See, they could make the decision up without talking to me. I love sending just a one-page PDF that gives them just enough information. Now, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put in that email, hey, great, hey, here's some of the information. Let me know what you think of it. I always create a call to action. One of the things in prospecting is I want to create what I call micro commitments. And this is why I'm a firm believer of starting off with this little short email, 4 to 6 sentences, 2 to 3 paragraphs, double spaced. I just want you to engage with me. It's got a call to action. Hey, I got this information on this, whatever. And because that's a micro commitment. And I'm going to take you another. And because what I do is if I can take you through a series of micro commitments, then I can gauge whether or not you're really a prospect that I can deal with. You see, because if I just sit there and send out to you something and you respond and you may be just looking for information. I always look for you, the prospect, to do something back for me. Because what does that do? That helps me measure whether or not you are somebody who I want to be doing business with. Because here's the whole thing. Even with email prospecting, I have to be very cautious, but my most valuable asset's my time. See, people sit there and say, well, yeah, it's my time is valuable. That's why I'm going to blast out 5,000 emails. I don't want to blast out 5,000 emails. I want to blast out just a few emails that are very tight, very concise. And I want to engage with you because my whole goal, and people who know me know I talk a lot about this. My goal is not to have a lot of leads. My goal is to have great prospects that I can close at full price. And I do that, and I can do that by way of email. So, okay, so now back to this whole email piece. What am I doing here? What I'm attempting to do here is I'm using it as one tool because this is why in my email, I'm always going to have the telephone. I'm going to have my telephone number because my goal is I'm going to be able to engage you better if I have you on the telephone. Now, stop and ask yourself this question. And this right here, this webinar is a great example, okay? Now, I do these webinars by way of video. Now, I could do these by way of just plain text, okay? You've sat through a lot of webinars like that. But see, it's more one-dimensional. But when you see me, you get the full inflection of my voice, my face, everything. What does it do? It becomes more engaging. Same thing with your prospecting email. Your prospecting email is really just kind of words. And sure, you can be just, I don't care how colorful you write, it's still pretty one-dimensional. When I get you on the telephone, I become two-dimensional. And ultimately, if I can get you on a video call, then I become more three-dimensional. Fourth dimension is when I'm face-to-face. Fifth dimension was a group from the 70s. Ooh, that was a bad joke. Okay. Many of you didn't get that because you don't know who the fifth dimension was. Okay. Anyway, here's the whole thing. My emails are designed to gain interest. Now, let's come back to this whole piece earlier, what I talked about in terms of tracking software. Okay. Now, are you and should you jump on somebody immediately after they open the email? Okay. Okay. You send them the email. Okay. And the tracking software says it. They just open it. I'm going to call them. I'm going to call them right now. I'm not a big fan of that. Okay. Now, I am a big fan of that if what I'm selling is very timely. Then I will jump on it. But if I'm selling a capital expenditure item, a larger purchase item, what did that tell the person? You're stalking me. You're stalking me. If you're sending that to a person and they're one layer in a 15-person decision, no. But what I can do is I can call back and say, hey, hopefully you've had a chance to look at the email I just sent. And you can do that even in a voicemail. So what did I say right there? I said I'm going to violate the rules, but only if what I'm selling is a more timely, contractual, short lead time type of situation. You see, but if I'm not going to do that. But you see, again, what does this come back to? It comes back to why email and the telephone work best together. Now, I said I wanted to go about 45 minutes, and I got a couple things I really want to share with you, which is really pretty cool here, okay? Now, here's a couple things that really get kind of cool. Because what I want to do is I want to say, how do I bring the two together? Okay? So the key piece that I want you to do is I want you to sit there and say, as your number one test, how does my email look on the telephone? Send your prospecting email to you on the telephone. And does it resonate? Does it not look good? Now, one other piece on the telephone. I'm going to take the telephone and I'm going to sit there and say, okay, I emailed you today and I'm going to call you tomorrow. That's fine. But remember, it's going to be something different. And then I'm going to email you 2 days later and I'm going to send you that one, okay? I'm going to send you a different email. And then I may come back and send you a phone call. Now, like I said, use those out of office messages as a great key way to gain people's phone numbers. Now, again, infofree.com has got a terrific database that you can access. But what I like about it is many times when I use those out of office responses, it's their cell number. It's actually a different number, something like that. And I love that. Now, what have we been doing? Okay, we've been talking about high profit prospecting here. And I said I got kind of a special deal. And I want to take just a minute on this. And questions have been just flooding in. So I'm going to spend time on these. But I want to share with you something. And this is really cool because I'm allowing you to get me one-on-one. I've never done this before. Okay, so hang with me for just a moment. But hey, here's the deal. This is the URL, and it really is kind of painful to see. And I'm gonna bear with me for just a moment. I'm gonna put this over in the notes section. Okay, I'm gonna put this in the notes section. I'm gonna put this link, but I want you to jump over to that. And the reason being is because and it's only there for 2 more days, and then it is gone. And then it is gone. But what it is, it's 23 videos I put together on the book. You get 3 hours total of me unplugged. And believe me, I'm holding back on this, but we dig down. We got a whole bunch of other stuff. But here's where it really gets cool. You buy this and you jump out and you grab info free. Okay. Go to infofree.com. Okay, go to infofree.com and get their stuff. And then you email me. I'm going to give you 1 hour of one-on-one coaching consulting. Let me share with you very quickly about somebody who called me the other day. This was a lady, single salesperson, small business owner. She said she had one salesperson who all she does is make phone calls. And she said, I can't believe it. She could only get 1 or 2 appointments per week out of all the phone calls she makes. I said, you're kidding me. And she went through and she told me what she was doing. We restructured it because here was the problem. What she was doing was completely backwards. We just did this 3 days ago. She's already doubled her volume. We did that in a 30-minute call. Yeah. Again, what I'm saying is that grab this right now, because you're going to get 3 hours of me unplugged and all kinds of other stuff. You can jump out there. And then if you want to get an additional, you get an additional hour of me just one-to-one, just with you right here on the phone. Go out and buy infofree.com, send me an email, and I'll say, great, let's get time set up. Now, I can only do this through noon tomorrow, okay? I mean, I can't, because again, this is absolutely insane for me. My assistant told me, be careful on this, because you only have so many hours in a day. But I'm passionate because I want to make sure that you are incredibly successful. Because in this thing here, we have got all this. But I'm so sold on what infofree.com does. Yeah. So jump out to that. Now, let's jump in and let's grab a bunch of these questions. What are your thoughts on introducing our company to new prospects? Cindy, can you explain that? You know what? Hold on here. I'm going to jump down here. I'm going to jump down and try to get some of the questions, because I should take these in order. Okay. Boy, a lot of people on the call here. This is absolutely terrific. Let me get out of the way. If you want to take a photo screenshot of that, get to that. Is there a number and access code available to network monitor doesn't have speakers? Oh, you know what? I'm going to get you a link on this. There was no code. This is really video only, so I apologize on that one. Replay. Let's get some of the questions. Start typing in your questions. Type in those questions. Boy, a lot of people saying, this is unbelievable, the number of people from all over. Do you know the way to San Jose? Oh, that's funny. Go Shark. Hey, Dennis, that's a good shout out for you. You said, Mark, you say, don't email and then call. What if you call? First, get voicemail, then send email shortly. Perfect. You know what? I didn't ask that. Great question. Okay. I may very easily start off with a phone call to you. That's great. And I'm going to leave you a voicemail. I am not going to sit there and say in the voicemail, I'll send you an email on this. Now, what does that do? That automatically says, if there was any desire for them to call you back, they're not going to, right? Because they're going to wait for the email. Well, I want you to call me back. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to voicemail you today, and then I'll probably wait until tomorrow morning before I email you. And the email is going to be just slightly different. I'm not going to repeat the same thing. It's going to be different, okay? Now, keep in mind, this is really cool about voicemail. Many people have now got software. I have it on my phone, for instance. All voicemails get put into text. All voicemails wind up in my email. You see, so this is kind of cool. I'm leaving you a voicemail, but guess what? It winds up in email. Oh, what does that mean? If this winds up in an email to me, you better be grammatically concise, short, and brief. Because otherwise, I'm going to get this voicemail email that's going to go on and on and on. Now, I stand apart from a lot of my peers. A lot of my peers say, oh, don't leave a message more than 30 seconds. I say, no, 11 to 14 seconds. 11 to 14 seconds. I'm not going to take the time here to show you how to do an 11 to 14 second voicemail, but I got some stuff out on the web, or grab this program and some other stuff. So anyway, so yeah, good piece. I'm going to not hesitate to lead with a voicemail, follow up with an email, but I'm going to wait probably about 24, maybe even 36 hours. Okay, so Ryan, that was it. What about texting the prospect if you have their cell number in your CRM? Yes, texting is becoming more and more acceptable. Now again, it varies by industry, varies by geography, and it varies by country in terms of laws. I'm over this whole thing of, oh, you're running up my phone bill. Look, if somebody, you're costing me money. If you have somebody who comes back to you with that one, they're a person you don't want as a customer anyway, okay? But here's what I found. In the construction trades, many industries where you're calling people who are out in the field all day, hey, text messaging is what they live by. I know a lot of IT people who use text messaging. So again, you just got to try it. You got to try it. Don't hesitate. But here's one rule of thumb regarding text message. Make sure you put your name in there. Because how many times have you received a text message from somebody and you have no clue who they are? You may think they know who you are. Just because you have their number in your system doesn't mean they have your number in their system. Okay? So text message. I firmly believe this. Try it. And this is one of the reasons why. What I'll do is when I'm prospecting you, if I'm talking to you on the telephone, okay, I will sit there and say, hey, what's the best phone number? In fact, what's your cell number? What's the best way? No, what did I just do? I very casually asked you for your cell number. And oh, by the way, when I hang up that, I'm deviating, I'm going off on some other stuff here. What I'll immediately do then is I hang up the phone with you. I'll immediately text you, hey, thanks for a great call. Very much appreciated. Now, what did I just do? I made a connection with you by way of text. I make sure I put my name in there. But it's amazing many times they'll text you back. And it's amazing how personable people will be with text messages. You may very well learn some new information. Okay, what about a call and voicemail immediately followed up by an email? The reverse of what you said not to. See, I'm not a fan of that. I'm not a fan of that. I'm going to send you, no, I'm going to let you respond, and then I'm going to wait. Again, because of this whole fad, this whole thing, not a fad. I mean, it's here for real. People taking voicemails and having it be transcribed into an email. So now what you've done is you've sent me 2 emails in the course of 15 or 20 minutes. You're off of my list. Yeah. Mark, what are your thoughts on local presence telephone numbers? Yes, I very much agree, very much like that. But to me, that can also come across as kind of slimy, okay? So you got to be careful on this, because what I want you to do is if you do get them on the phone, you do want to say, hey, yeah, we use local number. I'm actually in San Jose, or I'm someplace else. So again, it's a little bit of a squirrely. I don't think local numbers have as much of a positive impact as people are led to believe. They will have a positive impact in terms of more people are likely to answer it, but I don't think it necessarily turns into additional sales. Yikes, including unsubscribe info is required by the FTC can spam. Yes, I agree. I totally agree on that, okay? Oh, Sam, I'm glad I'm answering this question, okay? Now, here's the whole thing. This is very, very interesting. If you're sending out an email to somebody who you have but see, I'm always sending out a warm email and it's one-to-one, see? So I don't feel I'm violating any FTC can spam laws in terms of sending you an unsolicited email. So no, I'm not buying into that one. Where I get problems is when you're just scraping, not even scraping emails. There's no presence, no reason, and you're just pounding me. Those are those list building services. Don't get me going on this because I'm going to get in a rant on this. I'm going to really get upset on that. Okay, in Canada, anti-spam legislation that you must have an app. Yes, Canada has got very strong laws. I get that. See, so you got, that's a fatal sin that you have to live with. Okay. There are some European countries. I think the EU has pretty much gone to that too. Totally get that. I understand that. But what you have to realize is that sometimes some of those rules that apply to B2C do not always apply to B2B. And then the definition of what is a customer relationship, is it just through a credit card? Is it through something else? So in other words, there's deviations. I'm not saying to not practice integrity, but what I am saying is that sometimes you got to try just to find out, okay? Are you saying an email must build benefits and outcomes within a short message to start an ongoing conversation? Yes, I am, Helen. That's exactly what I'm saying. Because what I want to do is if I can concisely provide you a piece of information, then I have hit home with you. Some more questions here. What are some keywords to use that stand out to readers? It's going to vary by industry. Now, in my book, I do have a couple pages on that. But what I like is updates, insights, regulations, compliance. Again, now it's going to vary by industry, okay? But changes, I like kind of those words. But again, you got to really kind of structure it by industry, okay? I don't mean to make this into a sales, but if you grab this and you grab the info free and we get an hour on the phone, we'll come up with some very specific. Oh, I love it. To the fifth dimension. Yes, yes. Unsubscribe. If you send a one-to-one personal email, you shouldn't need to unsubscribe. Right. See, that's the whole thing. See, if you're doing one-to-one emails, then that's what I practice. That's what I believe. One-to-one. You don't need the unsubscribe. So Andrea, I'm all over that with you. I love it. That's the way I like, because prospecting is a one-to-one relationship. Yeah, see here, somebody else wrote the canned spam doesn't, it covers all commercial messages, which the law defines as any electronic. Yeah, see, so I mean, we can get so caught up on things that, again, I work with a lot of industries. I work with a lot in the financial industry and insurance, very highly regulated. And we have to follow very, very strict rules there. Yeah, I get that. And I'm gonna follow them. But again, you got to know what they are. So I kind of avoid on that. Anyway, what are your thoughts on attaching company info on a prospecting email? No, do not attach company. Do not attach. Thank you, Jessica. Do not attach. Here's the whole thing. They're interested. They'll Google you anyway. They'll go out to your website. Okay. So all I'm doing is I'm putting a reason in there for them for the message to be blocked. And all I want to do is I want to make this initial message really about some information I want to share with them. When I get into messages 2 and 3, then I'll begin to give them more of that other stuff. Does that make sense? Okay. Where is the notes section? It's just over there on the side. I apologize. Hey, if you don't have that and you want that, email me. We'll make sure you get that covered. Okay. If you send to cold prospects, is that still considered spamming? I don't think so. No, it's a one-to-one message. No. Here, stop and ask yourself this question. Do you believe that you can help your customers, your prospects, your leads achieve an outcome that they wouldn't achieve otherwise? Well, yeah, that's why I have what I have to sell. Then you have an obligation to get in touch with them. I firmly believe that. You know, I firmly believe it's my whole goal in life, because I selling is to help others. So I don't feel I'm intruding. I don't feel I'm doing anything. I want to help you. I want to help you achieve a better outcome. That's what I do. Should you start your email with "Dear"? No, I hate that. I hate that, because again, it comes across, you don't know me. At best, I'm going to just put their first name. That's it. I'm going to say Jim. That's it. Jim dash boom. That's at best. Check out the app I created for salespeople. Good. Somebody put something in there. That's cool. When is it over? How many calls and emails over time? Ooh, yes. Okay. So what I'll do real quick, and then we got to kind of wrap this up here, because we do have a 1-hour commitment here, is that I'm going to sit here. I'm going to send you 3 or 4 emails. I'm going to send you 3 or 4 phone calls over probably about a 4 or 6 week period. You don't respond, I'm going to step back. I'm going to step back for 60 to 90 days. I'm going to put other people into my prospecting funnel. Then I'm going to come back and I'm going to do you again. And then wait, okay, then I'm going to step back. So I keep cycling you through. I may have 3 or 4 flights, so to speak, of prospects that I'm working on. Now, I may have 50 to 100 in each flight, see. So I might have 400 total, and I've got, we'll say 100 per flight. So 100 this month, stop, next 100, next 100, next 100, come back, and I repeat, okay? One thing I hate is multiple emails from AWeber. It's very impersonal. Yeah, you're right. See, that's why the more I can personalize the message, I get it. Hey, we are running out of time here, but here's the whole deal. Take advantage of this, please. I mean, seriously, and grab infofree.com. They're absolutely terrific service. If you liked it, pop me an email with your question. I'll try to get this LinkedIn message. We will make sure we do a webinar on social media, okay? I'll make sure, and I do cover that in this thing here. My email, let's get my email back up there. Where is it? Oh, no, that's my kids. Hey, that's my grandson. How, you like that? You like that picture? I clicked too far. He says hi. So you know what he says? He says this program must be over. But hey, my name's Mark Hunter. The email, mark@thesaleshunter.com. We've been talking prospecting. We've been talking high profit prospecting, and specifically email. Great selling.